Relationships aren't always sunshine and rainbows. Just like in nature, you can't have rainbows without a little rain.
Journey with us
Shani Goodson.
and Dr. Sundiata as we share stories and insights about our thriving, unconventional love life and our unique take on relationships and consensual non monogamy. What's happening?
Hey y'all, welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode.
A SunShan Rainbows. We're so happy to be here.
So happy to be with you all once again.
So fun.
Yeah.
Did y'all like our last episode? You know, it was a little juicy. I feel like the last one was a little juicy. Glad y'all came back.
We know y'all like the juicy one. We know you like those.
This is a little juicy too.
It
Shoot.
is. It is.
This is the one that people be asking about. I feel like this is one that people really ask about, So, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about jealousy and envy.
And I feel like when you tell people you're polyamorous, that's always like the first thing they say. They're like, I could never be polyamorous. I'm too
Yes,
jealous.
yes, yes. And the timing is magnificent for this episode because
He said magnificent.
it really is. Because you're gonna get some real time raw feelings because Shani's been dating another man for the last couple of months, and I've been learning some things about myself. And quite frankly, some of it's been surprising. And we'll get into we'll get into all those details.
Sundiata got a lot to say about this one right now.
Definitely.
We're going to talk about jealousy and envy in this episode. I think we're going to focus a lot on jealousy. I think Sunjata will probably focus more on jealousy, and I might focus more on envy because I feel like envy is more the one that one that bothers me more, maybe, and jealousy might be the one that bothers you more. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I kind of want to tell y'all the difference between them.
Yeah.
I wrote an article about this on sustainablesolutionsmedia.com. I think it's called Jealousy, Unpacking Jealousy and Envy in Polyamory. So I'm going to read from that article. I'm just going to tell y'all what the definitions of these two are so that we can compare them a little bit.
And go check out that article because it's amazing.
Aw. So, jealousy arises when you fear that something you already have, like a relationship or emotional connection, is being threatened or could be taken away. And envy is the desire for something you don't have but wish you did, whether it's a trait, an experience, or a relationship. Envy is less about fear of loss and more about longing. While envy can still evoke negative emotions, it can also be considered to be on the other side or the same spectrum as admiration. Whereas jealousy can be accompanied by feelings of distrust, anxiety, and anger, as it triggers a defensive response to protect what feels at risk. So, yeah, I'll start right there.
Mm. So, yeah, who you want me to start? Or you want to start and talking about your experiences of those things?
I mean, yeah, I kind of, I kind of want to talk a little bit about like the responses because I feel like it's important to know the difference between jealousy and envy because we would need to kind of approach the emotions a little bit more differently. Um, Jealousy tends to bring up more um, worry, and envy, tends to bring up more longing. And so I think it's really important to kind of distinguish
Mm,
those.
mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like what let's talk about like what do you feel when you're feeling jealous? Like do you feel angry? Do you feel yeah, like what do you feel? I know for me if I'm feeling jealous, I'm feeling anxiety. More than anything else,
Yeah.
I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling uncertain.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest awareness for me is that I feel it in my body. And I guess that's like a form of anxiety in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Um, but I have a very somatic response, a bodily response to jealousy. It's like this rush of angst, in my body, like this tingly, like feeling where I have to take really deep sighs to kind of subside and calm whatever's bubbling up inside of me. Um, I experience it very much so more in my body, even if mentally, consciously in my mind, I'm like going with the flow. I'm telling myself all the positive, affirming affirmations and reaffirming my mindset and how I hold being polyamorous and how I understand that Shani isn't doing anything differently than I'm doing. Or if I'm thinking about another love, and it's like she's not doing anything differently than I'm doing, and I'm having these conversations mentally, like it's all good, it's all love, but inside my body it's bubbling up.
That's one of the things that helps me with jealousy often is I'm like, well, he be doing what he want to do. So, like that actually helps. Like, he does what he wants to do, so I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like that helps me.
Hmm.
Um, when you say you feel it in your body, you mean like you don't really feel it in your mind. So I guess I'm saying, do you not have like
Yeah,
thoughts about, anxious thoughts, worrisome thoughts?
you know at times I do,
Hmm.
but it's easy to dispel it. It's easy to like
Right.
move on from it, let
Yeah.
it go,
Yeah.
because I know that there's no validity in it,
Yeah.
and I don't stay there. So even like I like to explain it like my subconscious and my conscious mind, because I experience those things very differently. And my conscious mind is like, we polying, that's what we doing. We, us, all of us, we polying.
Alien.
It's fun, it's great, it's all these wonderful experiences, it's love, it's community, it's abundance. It's a beautiful experience. That's where my conscious mind is. My conscious mind is like, she's happy, she's having a good time, that's an amazing thing. And but my subconscious is like, nah, fuck that. Like,
Do you,
I don't like it.
but
I don't like it.
you only experience this if I'm dating a man, right? If I'm dating a woman, you
Hmm.
don't experience the same, you don't experience it to this extent, or do you not experience it at all?
I don't experience it at all if you're dating a woman. And, I believe that has something to do with the fact that A, I'm attracted to women. B, one of my like hopes in polyamory when I got into it is that I would be able to experience like triad type dynamics. Whereas, me and two women loving each other and sharing and love and relationship with each other. Open, dynamics, but that's always something I've wanted to experience in some degree. Um, you know, um, it's threesomes is one of my favorite, sexual configurations
You
and
remember that
fantasies.
a couple episodes ago. Sure.
Right? So it's like there's nothing intimidating, even though there's nothing in our dynamic that says if Shani's dating another woman that I'm involved. Like that has to happen organically. And it's not a guarantee, it's not something I expect. Let's let that be known. But I think those are some of the reasons why I'm not intimidated or I don't feel any jealousy around women. Um, and also on the flip side, I think that there's a natural, instinctual protectiveness when it comes to, the women loves in my life dating other men. That I think is just, yeah, it's like it's a deep rooted instinctual protective thing that's there as well.
Um, one of the things that I try to think of if I'm feeling jealous is like my relationship is my relationship. Like it's special. It's inherently special. It can't be threatened, right? No one can affect my relationship except me. Like those are the types of thoughts that help me. I also have felt jealousy in my body too. I feel jealousy especially when I don't feel close to the person who he is dating. So like if I know that person and we're cool, I feel a lot less jealousy than I do if I don't know that person or if we don't get along. And so that's some of the things I comfort myself with. I'm like, our relationship is special. He's not going to leave this relationship for something else. And then sometimes I think, and he might, like that's possible. He might, our relationship can change. And so those things kind of bring me some comfort. Um, I do feel like I feel it in my body too. I feel it kind of like when you're scared is a very similar type of bodily feeling, but not in my mind. So I always say the way your sympathetic nervous system like kicks in always feels the same. Like it's the
Mhm.
same feeling in your body. It's the same physical sensations. It's just what's attached to it in your mind is different.
That's a great, I'm glad you said it that way because I've had a hard time coming up with the words to explain what I feel in my body. But what you just said, like the same thing that you feel when you're scared or you're startled, like
Yes.
that, whatever that feeling is,
Yeah.
that's what I feel. It's like sometimes I'll hear, Shani or another love of mine talk about an experience with another man or something they're about to do, and I'll feel that.
Yep.
That is, I'm so glad you said it that way because that'll help everyone understand.
I've never said that
You've never
before.
said it before in our conversations. This is the first time
Okay.
I've heard you said it that way.
It's
That's it.
definitely
That's
every
it.
time
It's
your
like that
nervousness,
shock.
it's fear, and jealousy is rooted in fear. Jealousy is of the two between jealousy and envy, jealousy is rooted in fear the most.
Hmm.
And so when you feel that like fear response coming up in your body, it's jealousy, but it really is fear,
Yeah.
and I feel like fear is such a foundational negative emotion, if you know what I mean. And I don't mean it's not really negative because fear is actually very useful in the wild, etc. And for many reasons, fear is a really useful emotion. But this is a conditioned fear. Like this feels more mm, like why am I fearful of this? And a lot of that has to do with our monogamous conditioning, why we get this fear.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something I wanted to speak more to as well in terms of our conditioning, our monogamous conditioning, in terms of why I feel more jealousy around Shani or, again, any of my loves dating other men. It's because of the monogamous conditioning. It's because of the conditioning that I grew up with and that the very competitive nature between men and how we view like getting women my whole life as an adolescent and growing up through my teenage years and my early adult life, the way that men talk about women, that has planted in my mind in a very competitive like way. And all the sexist, misogynist tropes that exist, all the music and that I've listened to, all the guy talk that I've grown up around and been a part of, that's still in me. That's something that I'm still, unlearning. It's something I'm still, coming to grips with, that I'm different in those ways. And, other men are seen as threats. They're seen as competition. So that also bubbles up inside of me that I have to work through, those, that lifelong indoctrination around those things.
Yeah, jealousy is like, hey, that's mine. Why are
Hmm.
you touching my stuff? Right? That's kind of the jealousy vibe.
And more specifically, I want to make sure I'm nailing this. There's this whole thing about what it means to be a man that we deal with. And one of the things that it means to be a man is that we don't share our women.
You
No
don't
one,
let your
yeah, you
women.
don't let your woman, deal with another man and what that means about you. And those things, I don't know if that necessarily plays into jealousy, but I think there's something around um, all of that that still is
That
something
plays
that
into
needs.
possessiveness, and possessiveness plays into jealousy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think so.
So working through all of that, is definitely a part of the work. When you hear people say, if you're not polyamorous, if you hear when you hear people say it takes a lot of work and a lot of communication, that's a lot of it. And a lot of it is me. It's my work, because I want to be here, because I'm just naturally polyamorous, so I have to do the work.
A lot of communication, and we do talk about these things with some frequency. I would say I can usually tell when he's feeling jealous because we spend a lot of time together, so I know him pretty well. And
Mhm.
I'm like, you feeling a little jealous right now? I can sense it. And then, he'll talk a little bit about it, but
Mhm.
I feel like he tries to do the work himself and not drag me into it. I feel like he tries to like protect me from it in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, yeah, and I have to say that I mentioned earlier that Shani's dating a new man, and every time she dates a new man, I go through this process of having to really be intentional about doing the work. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that I try to do it on my own. I try to protect her from it, but she's like, "No, let's talk." And you can tell me it's okay. One of my fears is like I don't want my jealousy or my fears to stop her from doing the things she wants to do. I want her to truly feel liberated within our relationship. And so I don't want her to have to carry that. But she's reassured me that no, you can share it with me. And this, assure you that I'm still going to do me. I'm still going to do what I want to do. And that's what I want to hear. You know why? Because I want to do what I want to do. And I don't have to feel guilt tripped about doing what I want to do. So I don't want her to feel guilt tripped about doing what she wants to do. So I'm mindful. And even when I do share what I'm going through, I make sure that I share it in a way that doesn't bring a level of like guilt and heaviness. And I hope I do a good job of that and making sure that she understands I'm owning it as my work. She's doing nothing wrong. But I'm really, really grateful that she does create that space because I have to say, even though I'm resistant to talk about it, every time I do, it does make me feel better.
Yay. I do feel jealousy sometimes. I sometimes Sundiata doesn't I feel like you haven't been dating as much as you used to.
Mhm.
So it's like the newness, like the new aspect is not an issue for me. But I do feel jealousy and envy of his other like long-term love. I feel jealousy and envy around that. More envy than jealousy, I would say. So I'll talk a little bit about envy. Envy is like this longing for what you feel like you don't have. Um, so, like we said, jealousy is like, I don't want to lose what I already have. Envy is more like, I would like to have that and I don't have that. And I wish I had that. Sometimes I think, so I'm, I've had feelings where it's like, I'm the ball and chain. That's my energy. And his other long-term love gets to be the fun one, right? She gets to be the group trip person. She gets to be the date person. She gets to be the have fun person, and I'm just the do life person. So that's an envy.
Oh, you
That's a
trying to say
feeling of
we don't
envious.
date, we don't do fun things?
I'm saying that that's where how you spend the majority of your time in that
Yeah, no,
relationship.
I know.
And that's not how you spend the majority of your time in this relationship. So I felt envious of that. Um, I felt envious of their history because they've been together longer than he and I have. Um, in the past, I felt like a little envious of certain ways that they've connected. I think I've moved past that a little bit more with more context. Um, but it's less about a fear of losing something and more about wanting or uh, comparing. So envy is comparing. Comparison is the root of envy. Um, when you're comparing yourself to someone else, envy is almost always gonna stir up. And envy can be especially strong when you don't know the other person that well, or you don't know the person you feel envious of. Because a lot of times, once you learn more about them, you don't feel that envy anymore. So I said I used to feel kind of envious about like certain ways that he and his other love connect. But the more I have like seen that connection and the more I've experienced that connection, the less envious I feel because I'm more exposed to it. I get to see more. And so my comparison kind of goes down because I'm realizing what he has with me is not that different than what he has with her, if that makes sense. So that kind of like reduces the envy a bit. Um, I've had other envious feelings too, but I'll leave you with those examples.
Cool, cool. I wanted to talk a little more about how I experienced one of the main elements of jealousy that I experience, um, and it's change. Like, where is my fear really? What is my fear? What are my fears really anchored in? And it's change. Whenever Shani starts dating a new
Like the
man,
uncertainty of what will change.
it's the uncertainty of what will change. And, you know, like we have a rhythm, in our
Mhm.
relationship. We have a certain amount of time we spend with each other. And, when someone new comes in the picture, now all of a sudden, time is finite. Love is infinite, but time is finite.
Mhm.
And, depending on, it's, you know, all of a sudden there's more dates. It's like, a frequency. Like I'm going on a date. Like I'll give you an example. It was like when Shani went on the first date with this newer person. She went on a date with him one day, and it was like, okay, I'm going on a date with this person. It's like, okay, cool. You know, she had went on another date with another guy like maybe a couple weeks earlier.
Mm.
It was a one and done thing, and
Like
then
most of my dates.
like most of her dates tend to be one and done. And you know, then she went on a date with this guy, like let's say it was like a Monday, and then on Tuesday she's like, "Yeah, I'm meeting up with him again tomorrow." That was like, like,
And
oh snap,
I knew it. Because I was
like
like,
what?
I knew as soon as I was
This
like, oh
is
my
real.
gosh, I'm about to see him a few days later. I was like, Sundiata gonna be like, oh snap, because that never
Yo, that
happens.
never happens. So like that's an instant signal, like, yo, this is
She liked
she
him.
really liked this dude. And that was like that had never happened. And that was a shock to my system. That was definitely one of those shock moments where I had to take some like,
It's a fear of change. It's a fear of what you might lose.
yeah. And so in my mind, it's like, yo, that's dope. But my body is like, it's like fearful. And it's really like a dual thing going on. And so that's an example of like that happening. And but beyond, so when that happens, then instantly it's like, okay, this is someone, and she confirmed this is someone that she really likes, you know, at a level that's like that's more at a higher level sooner than other people she's dated, et cetera, things like that. So instantly my mind goes to, okay, now she's probably gonna be going on dates with him twice a week forever. Right. So now I gotta like work my mind around the fact that, you know, that's time away, you know, from the time we usually are kicking it together. Um, and you know, so my mind instantly goes there. And what else is gonna change? You know, how many overnights, you know, so I'm sleeping by myself multiple nights a week, potentially on nights that I probably wasn't before. It's like all these things and that are going through my mind about the changes. And that's typically, what goes through my mind about like the changes. And my brain will then go on this deep dive. My brain will like basically my subconscious, that's where it kind of goes off the kilter and I gotta reel it back in a few moments. I'm going to tell y'all some of the things I do to reel it back in, but my brain will go down these like, you know, these this rabbit hole of all the possibilities of where this is going to go. Basically like to be extreme, like marrying them off and us like co-nesting, you know, because you know Shani and I nest now, and it's like, okay, well now she's gonna nest with him too, and now that's mean I'm gonna be like half the week. You know, my mind goes like all the possibilities, like it's crazy.
I'm going to speak for Sunjata for a little bit, and he's going to correct me whenever I'm not speaking for him. But I feel like this is the first time Sunjata is experiencing this level of a new person coming into an established, our relationship. He's not in our relationship, but you know what I mean. Um, I think Sunjata has been in the past when he has been the receiver of jealous behavior. He has been the man coming in, right?
Yep.
He has been the new man.
Hmm.
And so that fear of change doesn't happen because you are the new person. You
Right.
are the change,
Right. Right.
And now it's totally different. We're, a few years in, and we, like he said, we have a rhythm, we have our
Yeah.
routines, we have
Yeah.
our stuff. And now there's this newness coming in. It's a whole different experience. Like
That is so
it's
important.
a flip, it's like a complete flip. And I think it gives
Yeah.
more grace for the people who you've encountered when you've been the
Definitely.
receiver of
Definitely.
the jealous behavior. I feel like you have more grace for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like I hope one of the things I hope is that he will want to be the meta that he wished he had.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's such an important distinction because you know I would go through these thought experiments and processes in my mind where I'm like, why wasn't when I dated married women who were already married, nested with other men, I didn't feel jealousy towards those men. I never felt jealousy towards those men. Um, they were already established. They were already there. It's a weird thing that I didn't really feel any jealousy towards them because of the way my jealousy manifests, which is change. So there was nothing that was change worthy in that because that was already established. But now, like Shani said,
The only
oh, go ahead.
changes would be you getting more time, right? The
Right,
only
right,
changes would be, yeah.
right. Me getting more time with, you know, the woman love that is already with that man.
Because with your other love, you also have felt jealousy when she has dated somebody new
New
and don't feel it toward her husband.
towards her, right. So yeah, that's the thing. For me, it's always when someone new, another man comes in. It's not necessarily I'm jealous of men just in general because I've dated and been partnered with women who have other nesting male partners. So that's a very important distinction. I'm glad that came out. Um, so yeah, that's how mine manifests. It's like now when I'm in an established, nested, doing life with someone, or not even just that, because like you said, even with my other love who I'm not nested with, she also in recent times has started dating another man, and I have felt similar feelings around that relationship as well because that next man in.
And before we were nesting, you felt jealous
Yes,
when
before
I
we were
dated.
nesting. So it's not just about the nesting thing at all. It's
No.
literally about a new man coming in. This is new male energy. Don't know how he's going to show up.
Mhm.
Don't know if he's going to be bringing any competitive energy.
Mhm.
Um, Also concerned, like he better not hurt y'all. Things like that. And also, I'm afraid of what's going to change. Like these are all the things that the ways. Hope you're enjoying this episode. Let's take a quick break to tell you about something that we've been working on.
We're excited to announce our course and coaching program, Relationship Bliss, where we help polyamorous people transform their relationships into highly compatible, peaceful, deeply aligned, and blissful partnerships.
We do this by sharing techniques for effective communication, deeper connection, and conflict resolution. The program offers a self paced course with 5 learning modules, 25 training videos, and live virtual coaching sessions with us, Shani and Sundiata.
Learn more at go-growdialogue.com.
Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I would say so. We're about almost 3 years into our relationship, and I would say the man I'm dating now is the third man who is, somebody who I'm dating more than once.
Yeah.
Because like he said, typically if I go out on a date, we don't ever go out again, or we go out on some friend, energy, some friend vibes. Um, so this is the third time, and I definitely feel like we've been here before, but it's different this time because it feels like I like this person differently, which I understand. And when he has dated other women since we've been together, I still typically feel um, more envious of the traits that they have than jealousy. I remember one time pretty early in our relationship, he was dating someone new, and she was more I would say, what's the word? Like she was more like extravagant about the way that she dated and the way that she like spent money. And I'm a very frugal person, if you don't know that about me. And I'm also just not somebody who like makes a lot of money. That's just never been my thing. And I was very envious of that about her. Like I was like, well, why don't you just like be with her? Because she, you can, and this is monogamous. Like this idea that it's a zero sum game. Why don't you just be with her? Very monogamous minded. Okay, but that's where that's where my mind goes. That's how I'm conditioned. Why don't you just be with her? She has more of what you might want. That's more my energy when you're dating someone else. Why don't you just spend more time with them because they're better than me at this, and et cetera, et cetera. So mm, I don't know if I feel that in my body. I definitely feel that in my mind. Like that's definitely something that I'm like thinking about, and wondering why. Like I'll be like, why does he spend all this time with me when he could be spending time with these other women who have all these other traits that I don't have, and that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I think, and for me, the envy is rooted a little bit in insecurity. It's not really about meeting needs or anything like that. It's more about like my own insecurities. And that's work I'm doing, and I feel like I'm doing pretty well at it. I'm doing pretty well. I don't typically bring these things to him. Um, and sometimes I feel like maybe I should bring more of it to him because I ask him to talk to me about his jealousy. Um, but I don't bring a lot of it. I don't feel like I bring a ton of it to you.
Yeah. No, you don't. And you can.
Yeah,
Let's try it. Let's see if it makes you feel better. It makes me feel better. It's worth a try. What do y'all think? Shouldn't she, bring some of it to me too and see if, me holding space for her helps her feel a little bit better and kind of quiets those voices in her mind?
I feel like you
Let us know in the comments.
Like you quiet those like thoughts in my mind just naturally though, you know,
Hmm.
just like the way that you are, you know, the way that you are, you show gratitude, the way that you speak to me, the things you do for me, the amount of time you spend with me, I feel like those things really quiet the
Mm.
envious thoughts. Because in my conscious mind is like, well, look, how are you gonna tell him what to do? He's doing what he wants to do. So that helps.
Love it, love it. So let's give them some insights into, how we balance these thoughts, these jealous and envious thoughts. Um, so what I'll share with you all is that because I noticed that I mostly feel it in my body, I've gotten back to meditating more consistently and more frequently, and I noticed that that helps my nervous system, my sympathetic nervous system, to be in practice of that mindfulness, those mindfulness exercises, the breathing, and what that does. I do it twice a day. I hadn't meditated twice a day in probably like 3 4 years, whereas one point that was a regular practice for a stretch of my life, and it's made a difference. I'm not so easily that fear response isn't so easily triggered. It doesn't go, it's not as heightened because since I've started with that twice a day meditation practice.
And shout out to meditation because I feel like it's helping you in that way, but it's also helping you think about other things too, like your purpose in life, you
Hmm.
know, and like what
Hmm.
you want to do, and all our anti oppression and liberation. Like if you follow us on Substack, you know we do that. All of that stuff, I feel like it's been helping you to like
Get more
hone in
clear,
on that. Yes,
get
get more
more clear,
clarity
get
on
more
that too.
focus.
Yes. So
Yeah.
shout out to meditation, especially twice a day. I
Hmm.
really admire that about him, that he really is dedicated to meditating. We'll go on like we'd be going on a walk and he's like, let me stop to meditate. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah. It's like so
Yeah.
yeah.
And another thing that I do is I research. I want to
Mhm.
understand why I think. Why are these patterns of thinking happening? And I research to understand like the brain science, the psychology behind it. Like, why am I more jealous? I look up like, why am I more jealous of men than women? Or why, as a polyamorous person, why am I, responding this way when my love does X, Y, Z? Like, I'll like search these terms and read other people's experiences, or read certain articles about jealousy and what that really means and how it shows up in my body. Why do I feel this in my body? What's the brain science behind XYZ? And for me, that takes me out of the um, beating myself up about it energy, because that's another thing that I did often as I would work through these things. I would get upset with myself for feeling these feelings, and I've finally gotten to the point now where because of the research I do and because of the meditation, um, that I don't beat myself up. I've accepted that this is a part of me and it's okay. Um, and that's been really huge for me, is just understanding that this isn't happening because I'm somehow weaker polyamorously, or I'm not really polyamory, I'm not doing polyamory right, or I'm not cut out for this. It's because I'm human, and these are natural human ways of being because of our indoctrination, because of the environment that we were raised in and we live in, etc. So
Jealousy and
yeah.
envy happen in other relationships too. I have definitely been jealous of friends
Hmm.
who made new friends.
Hmm.
I have, I've seen children be jealous of siblings. I've envied people who I am not in a relationship with. And when I was monogamous, I felt jealousy. I felt envy. Not as I didn't have as many opportunities to feel jealousy and envy, but these are natural human emotions that can occur in all kinds of relationships, not just among polyamorous people.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I always like to point that out. Jealousy and envy definitely can be part of. I've seen people be jealous at work, envious at work,
Yeah.
right? In their professional relationships. So
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways to be jealous
That's a
or to
good
be
point.
envious.
And one other thing that I use to combat feelings of jealousy within myself is my capacity for compersion. Um, I think you're like better at the definitions. How would you define compersion?
Conversion is like happiness or joy at seeing your love or witnessing your love, being having feelings for someone else, having romantic feelings. I think compersion is
Yeah,
specific to romance. Do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. I think so. Especially in a polyamorous context, it's the only space I've heard this word used in.
Mhm.
So, is probably one of these poly words, polyamorous words, specifically for this context of living. And I have the capacity to shift to compersion because for me, I just want to see my loves happy. So I lean on that. I lean on when Shani tells me the way that her new connection edifies her, affirms her, makes her feel good, makes her feel wanted, makes her feel, valued and sexy and smart and all these things. And I'm like, that's so dope. That is so amazing. Like, I love the fact that she has other people in her world and her life that can do those things for her because we it's rough out here. It's this life we live can be hard. It can be heavy, and we need as many people as we can lifting us up. So for me, I lean into that capacity that I have to understand that that's valuable. And for me, I love her and I love that for her. So I use that, to balance it out for her and my other love in her new situation. It's like somebody else that's community for her, somebody else that's holding her down that can be there to support. If I'm not available, if she going through something, she could pick up the phone and call him, and that's he got her, or if she needs something, I can't get to it, but he can get to it for her. Like more community, more support, more resources. That's what we need. We all need, in my opinion, we all need more. Let's say this: we can never have too much community and support in those ways. So I love that for my loves, and I lean into that heavy to combat my feelings of jealousy.
Yeah, and I also think, he's very lovable. Like it's very easy to love him. Of course she loves you. Like, of course she does. You're amazing. So that kind of that's something that I like reason through. Um I also like to think if if he's dating new people, which he hasn't dated anybody new in a long time, but although you kind of are like, you talk, you flirt, you what's the word I'm
I
looking
talk to
for?
some people from time to time.
Yeah, you cultivate some things sometimes. It doesn't always like blossom into something like high frequency, but
Hmm.
you do. And I think about community for myself when if he's dating somebody new, or if he were to date somebody new, I would probably want to see what the vibe was between me and her, just to say, just to see. Is it good? How is it? Are we vibing? Because if we are vibing, what's up? More community. Like, I'm here for it.
Hmm.
So I'm with you on the can't have too much community, especially I'm very like KTP, lap sitting. That's what I desire. I know some people say they don't desire that because they don't want to force it. I desire it and I don't want to force it. It's a both. It's a both and, right? I desire KTP and lap sitting, and I'm also not going to force it. So I feel compersion sometimes when I imagine that. But I also, like I said, I feel compersion when I think about how lovable he is, and just knowing that he can get more. He's a words of affirmation person, so he can get more affirmation of how like lovable he is from different perspectives, and they say it in a different way than I do. Maybe he just gets multiple different varieties of that, and I like that, and I like that he gets the novelty of like sexual connection and just being able to experience differences in that way is really fun, and I want him to have fun. So
I like fun. um, that's dope. That's dope, and I love that about her. Like I really don't feel any guilt around cultivating new connections, new love, and I really appreciate that. Um, and I really do feel that happiness. Like she truly feels happy for me when I'm like catch a vibe, and I appreciate that.
he
Um,
helps with Sundiata because I know that he wants to catch a vibe with somebody who would catch a vibe with me. Like I know that's something that he would
yeah,
want.
yeah,
So like that's kind of comforting, but that's just something that I know about you. Like you would
yeah.
appreciate it if you caught a vibe with somebody who caught a vibe with me. It's not like you want to keep us separate.
Hmm.
So that's I like
Indeed,
that.
indeed, and that's
I don't want to either.
yeah, and for me at this stage in my journey, it's like if I'm gonna do high contact relationship with anyone new at this stage, they gotta feel like village. They gotta feel like community
Yeah.
because I don't want to invest time outside of what feels like home, what feels like community and village at this stage in my journey and stage of my life and what I'm aspiring to do and etc. And so the way that we align in all the different ways intellectually, platonically, familially, I hope to attract love in my life that aligns in those areas, because then again, that's just more community, more resources that we can tap into in terms of like supporting each other and enhancing each other's lives, even if it doesn't touch the romantic sexual context.
Hmm.
That would be nice, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. But I think this is a good time to transition into our segment for the day. What do you think?
Let's go. What are we talking about?
So today's segment is called "Well, That Went Left," and if you watch season one, you know that we do these segments, and this is one of them where, well, that this segment of "Well, That Went Left" is about breakup stories, and we use the term breakup, because that's more widely accepted. But really, for me and how I do relationships is about transitions. But I will say with this story, it felt like a breakup. It really did feel like a breakup. Um, but ultimately ended up being a transition. So,
And would you say there was a little bit of jealousy and stuff involved in this story?
mm,
So maybe like
yeah,
let's unpack a little bit.
yeah. So, you know, I was in a relationship with a woman, and we were probably in a relationship for a little over a year. Um, yeah, a little over a year when she started dating a new man,
Hmm.
and she had already had a male
She was
partner.
married.
She was married, and then she started dating a new man, and things got heavy, pretty quickly with that relationship. But it wasn't necessarily communicated to me how hot and heavy it had gotten. But I started noticing a shift in energy.
Like, because I remember that she went on a trip with someone. She took someone
Hmm.
on a trip that you kind of wanted to go on.
Yeah,
Um, that was like the beginning, and it wasn't the
yeah,
person who, right?
yeah. It wasn't a person who she ultimately ended up being in a relationship with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I would say that happened. Yeah, that happened like a month or so before
Yeah.
she met this other
Yeah.
person. And I would say that was definitely like the first indication, I
Yeah.
think, for me that things were kind of rocky.
Uh-huh.
I had an issue with how that situation was handled.
Yep.
She had an issue with how I expressed or showed that I was bothered and had an issue with that situation. I know that rubbed her the wrong way. And I think that's when like both of us were noticing like some misalignments in terms of how we show up and in terms of like,
And how you communicate.
yeah, and how we show up and how we communicate through these things. And I think
Yes.
that was really a big part of it was
Yes.
just how we communicated through it or
Absolutely.
didn't communicate through it from how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and or what my I say my communication needs were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she did anything wrong. I just think I had communication needs that she was unable to meet. I really think that's what it boils down to. And so anyway, that was like the first thing, and that really we had a when she got back, we kind of had a meeting, and it was like, is this it? And it almost was like this might be it, but
This wasn't, and she was like, no.
yeah, she whatever something sparked in that conversation where it's like this ain't it. We can move forward.
Yes.
So fast forward 2 months, this other new person comes into her life that it got hot and heavy. It became really serious really fast, and
And let's be clear, the energy she was on was like brother husbands, right?
mm,
That's what she desired, I think,
yeah,
always.
yeah,
Do you
definitely,
agree?
definitely, definitely.
And Sunjata wasn't really, that's not what he desired.
Yeah, and it wasn't really conducive to my life and the
Yeah.
ways that she wanted it, etc. And also I had different desires. I
Yes.
I wanted like a nesting partner,
Yes.
kind of like that anchor primary energy, not necessarily be in that type of dynamic, brother husband type dynamic. So this person came into her world, and her energy shifted. It was clear. We had a rhythm. We had a rhythm of how often we saw each other, how often we had overnights, and that rhythm started to wane, but again, without a certain level of communication. So that was happening, and I was kind of sitting back, and I kind of at that stage I was like, you know what? I expect change to happen when someone new comes into someone's life.
Were you feeling jealous?
Yeah, I was feeling some jealousy for sure. However, I felt like internally I was dealing well with it.
Okay. Hmm.
And I felt like I have the understanding that when someone new comes in, there's going to be change.
Hmm.
That's to be expected, and that's okay. So I sat back. I didn't really speak on it initially. I just sat back and just wanted to see what I see a pattern. But eventually it did become enough of a pattern, um, where I spoke up. And actually something happened.
Yeah, what became enough of a pattern that y'all weren't seeing
We weren't seeing each other.
the way you used to
Yeah,
at all?
yeah, we weren't seeing each other. I'll say the way we used to,
Okay.
and it got to the point where the gaps in seeing each other got longer and longer.
Yeah.
The gaps of having intimacy and sex got longer and longer.
Hmm.
And again, it was clear it was a major change and it was a major shift again without a certain level of communication. And some other things were shifting too that I won't get into that weren't really communicated with me. And I can imagine from that person's perspective, it's her life, it's her world. She can do what she wants to. She doesn't have to communicate with me the way again what I would say my communication needs are. Um, and again, that's just a misalignment. I can accept that. So there was a situation where a very where things just basically went down where I reached out to her and she was traveling and I that's the there was like a moment where I decided like to really press what's up, all right, this is she was traveling, but then again, some things weren't communicated with me and some signals got crossed. And I'm just like, it's like I just was on the outside at this point. It was clear because we had a very like enmeshed dynamic. There was a lot of like traveling together and all these different things and all these changes were happening. And it was just like at this moment, I just decided to press. I didn't know what was going on the other end. I came to find out later, but I didn't know what was going on the other end. But here I was texting her like, okay, I'm feeling the energy shifted. Like, come on, I can't push to the side anymore. Like, what's up? Just tell me what's going on. Like, let's talk about it. And in that moment, she responded with something, and then I responded like to try to like, avoid the conversation, but I pressed. And then when I pressed, she said something to the extent of, I'm not having this conversation. And then next thing you know, I was blocked. Like blocked on all platforms. We were chatting on one platform and then to come to find out, like blocked and ghosted.
She did say she was going to block you. She was like, I'm going to block you for the next at least X amount of days. And she did that before with the trip situation too. When you pressed about the trip situation a couple months before, remember she was like, I'm
I
going to take
think
a
I
break
need a
from this.
break from this.
And she was like, I'm not going to talk to you for X amount of days. She did the same thing with this too. She was like, I don't want to have this conversation. I'm not going to talk to you for at least this many days. That's what happened.
Nah,
Hmm. And you were like, she sentenced me.
it happened with the first one.
Okay.
It definitely happened with the first one, but there was no warning for this one.
There was. She said it in that conversation, and then and as soon as she said it, you didn't get a chance to say anything back. She blocked you immediately. She was like, I'm taking a break for this amount of time." And it was something long too.
I don't remember that way, and that's cool. Because what I do remember is the way it felt.
Was it in WhatsApp? We should scroll up.
It was in WhatsApp, and I'm wondering if it's there because I don't think it would have been as shocking if she would have said, "I'm taking a break for X amount of days." It was
Too long
shocking.
though, and you were. It was like several days passed, and you were like, "Yo, she's still not back. Like this is kind of crazy." And
That's
it
what I'm
started
saying.
to stew.
I don't think I would have stewed if she would have said, "I'm taking a break for this many days." That's why I think it was like she said it the first time and she reneged on it. Like previous a few months earlier, after the first situation we talked about, it was definitely I'm thinking I'm taking a break for X amount of days, and then like a few days later, she was back and
Uh
we were
huh.
communicating again. But in this situation, the reason why I took it so hard is because it was very abrupt and there was no warning, there was no nothing like that, and it ended up being ultimately being 2 weeks that she went ghost on me, and it felt like I was ghosted for 2 weeks, and if it was really hard for me, um, to experience that for someone that for the last year and a half, we've been in a very enmeshed, spending a lot of time together, traveling the world together. Um, you know, Collaborating on projects together, saying that we love each other, we're loving each other, being in love, loving each other, like doing life, family together, kids stuff, meeting parents. Like we were doing life in a way that felt really like solid and anchored. Like we were really, it felt like that relationship was going to have some real longevity.
Yes. Yeah, I
Um,
remember you were so upset because of that. You were like, I can't believe we're in this place just because I was asking what was going on. I can't
yeah,
believe we're in this place just because I was feeling uncertain and she didn't like that. That's what had you, you were like,
I couldn't believe it.
yeah,
It felt
you
like
were
it was
like,
so much harsher than.
I'm wanting to spend more time with you, and this is how you react. Like that was your
Yeah,
type of
it felt
energy.
hurtful. It
Yeah.
felt very hurtful. That it wasn't. I didn't feel. It's not like I, was being toxic
Mhm.
or doing anything that anyone would say is like wrong that would get someone sentenced in that way, where someone had to block
Yeah.
someone to protect their energy in those ways.
The
So,
first time she blocked you, she did tell you the number of days, and I remember it was long.
but she
But the
didn't block
second
me though. She
time,
didn't block me
okay,
then.
she said, I'm not talking to you for the certain amount of
Yeah, I
days.
need a break for a certain amount of time.
But then the next time, it was like, I need a break, no amount of time, and you were blocked.
Okay,
And you
that
were
that might
like,
be more accurate. Yeah, that might be more accurate, but it definitely was. I need a break for this amount of time and then block.
no, right.
It
Yeah.
might have just been like, you know what? I don't want to talk about this. I need a break and then blocked.
Blocked. Yes.
That sounds
And it
more
was like the
accurate.
uncertainty, because that does trigger you. Like uncertainty in general
Yes.
is like a trigger. So it's like that uncertainty was like very disturbing to you. You didn't know how long it was going to last. There was a point where you were like, even if she talks to me, I don't even know if I'm going to talk to her, because I'm just so like, you were definitely
Yeah.
triggered by the
I mean,
uncertainty.
I'm sure it's just imagine, again, you all being in a relationship with someone that you had the depth of relationship that I just explained.
Seeing them all the time.
Yeah. Every day for 14 days, every day, the unknown, the also like why?
Hmm.
Like what did I do?
Yep.
Like this is it just and like running through my mind, like what could have triggered this reaction to this depth, and this person is just gone for that long. It felt like an eternity. And I remember, having to I leaned into my meditation practice heavy then. Shani and I were very new in our relationship at that point, and
We were.
she really held me down. She was like allowed me to share how I was feeling and be vulnerable, and she held space for that, and I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, that was a really, really, tough situation that went left like a mother.
They're actually cool now. Okay. They hang out sometimes. I
Hmm.
feel like y'all have been intimate after.
Hmm.
He did say, like, I'm not sure that I can like trust her to be in like a partnership again in that type of way, but y'all still have a good relationship.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that because again, after the 2 weeks, we sat down, we talked, and I was angry, and I told her I didn't want to talk, but she wanted to talk, and y'all know me. I'm sorry. I told her that everything in me is like don't, but my higher self, I'm a conflict resolution professional. That's what I do in the world. So I got to show up for that conversation. I'm always gonna lean towards resolve because that's my nature. And I heard her out, she heard me out, I gave her my raw truth, she gave me her raw truth. We understood things better and where the misalignments were, and we were able to cultivate, lean back into more again of a transition to be able to sustain our some type of connection, as Shani has said. And there was so much amazing things that happened as a result of that relationship. And I'm not someone that wants to throw away a whole connection because of something, going left. So I'm happy to say that we have been able to salvage a relationship, but woo, it went left heavy. It was hard, y'all. It was hard.
Don't y'all admire him for like actually going back to talk? Because I know so many of y'all would have been like, I'm talking to you. You didn't talk to me for you ghost me for 2 weeks. You blocked me for 2 weeks. No, I'm not talking to you. So
Yeah,
I think you
yeah.
deserve some credit for that. Because I don't know. I don't know. No, I think if I had the love, I probably if like the love was already there and the year and a half, relationship was, I
Of a
probably
lot of
would.
goodness, a lot of good
Yeah, I
times.
probably would sit down and have that conversation too. But I know it was hard for you, and definitely one of the things that uh broke your little heart
Yeah.
for sure. Aw.
All right, well,
Okay, y'all. Hope that you found this episode useful. I hope you learned something.
yeah, yeah,
Let us know if you have experienced some jealousy, some envy in your polyamorous life.
yeah, yeah,
I would love to hear some stories. I
yeah.
know you have.
Thank y'all for being with us once again. Thank you for continuing to rock with us. And until next time, we love y'all. Peace. That's a wrap for this episode of SunShan Rainbows. We hope today's conversation sparked some new insights, deep reflections, or just gave you a fresh perspective on love and connection.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop us a comment, send us your questions, or share your own experiences. We might even feature them in a future episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to SunShan and Rainbows on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you're vibing with us, please like, comment, share, and leave a review. It helps others find the show and keeps these conversations going.
Want more Sunshine and Rainbows? Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at SunShan Rainbows for daily insights, behind the scenes moments, and updates on future episodes.
Until next time,
We
we
love
love y'all.
you. Peace.
Peace.